Welcome to our channel. Today we delve into the diverse perspectives of the inner child. Join us on a journey of self-discovery and exploration. Let's begin. Freedom Fridays, where we play with techniques and tips that will give you more freedom in your life.
Where we're going to be looking at ways that we can free ourselves from the entanglements of the past, the generational issues that we have navigated our lives through so far along this soul path journey. And so here's a deck that I have found quite interesting and quite a lot of fun to ponder and contemplate as we take a look at the deck is called Archetype Cards by Caroline Myss. And these are not your typical oracle card deck, certainly not tarot, but what they are is more of an educational, contemplative type of a card that will offer us the ability to ask Spirit, bring to us some kind of wisdom, something we need to see in ourselves, see in the situation, aspire to, or to let go, let it expire from our lives. So here's some things that I wanted to really focus on with this deck is the child aspect of our realities. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to take a quick moment and think about yourself in your own childhood. Then I want you to just keep yourself open enough to be able to see the other adults, which cards would go well for them. Does your spouse have the same kind of a child nature or challenge or gift that you have? Or are you most likely seeing some kind of where they have this, you have that? You can do it with your friends, you can do it with coworkers. A lot of times, let's just see where you can dial in who and what you're seeing and your own heart and mind, and then can you kind of get an intuitive feel for where others in your life, your other relationships, where they're dialed in, and then you can start to see, okay, this is where we're getting very conflicted because I'm saying I'm right, or they're saying they're right. I'm insisting that I have a voice here too. So a perspective, it's all going to be about perspective. So let's go ahead. A lot of us have dealt with the wounded child, right? So many of us are coming out of that. There's been some great work done on this. What the wounded child experience offers us is it awakens compassion in us and a desire to serve others. I know that for myself, that's the reason why I'm so passionate about the Soul Life Treasure Hunt. I was in tears many, many times and I still feel the emotions come up when I think of anyone who is going through what I went through without an answer, without a tool. So this is so important to myself. And if you've got the wounded child background, you probably understand exactly what I'm talking about. So wounded children are open to learning the path of forgiveness. So the light attributes, the best part of being a wounded child that you're recovering from is that it awakens compassion and desire to serve other wounded children. So my story. Yes. It also opens the learning path of forgiveness. Absolutely. Totally does that. Yes. So it's like this fabric of this maternal protector that says it's okay. Love resides here. We understand. We know it hurts. We know what you've been through, but you've survived and you're going to be so much more amazing because of it. And so we're just going to look for the amazing in your life and the experiences and how you can be the master or mistress of your soul path by saying, I leave that behind. I go forward to the good and the joyous aspects of what this can actually teach myself and others. The shadow attributes are blames all dysfunctional relationships on childhood wounds. Do you or anyone else have that tendency? Very typical of this kind of a wounding. So that's just a signal. It's a sign, no judgment. But just know that if that is the case, this is the struggle, but this is the gift. So they resist moving on through forgiveness. They are like going to hold on to the bitter and the judgment that was wrong, and that is not even the right way. I didn't deserve that, or whatever the wounded child is going through. Sometimes wounded children start thinking that that's the only way that they are supposed to be because that's how they were treated. So obviously, and again, do you know someone? Do you relate yourself? There is the orphan child, and I have people in my family, direct family line, who are dealing with this one, have dealt with this, and that contributed to the wounded child that I experienced in my life, but is offering me love and light ultimately, now that I am past so much of the lessons that were to be learned in this. So the child orphan is gifted with independence based on learning to go it alone. Wayne Dyer talked about that. He was like, when his father abandoned the family and his mom could not handle it financially to have the boys with her, he was sent to foster cares and different things. And it really did strengthen his character to have to survive in some really tough situations. So conquering fear of surviving. So orphan children have a very amazing ability to have seen the divine show up for them when all else had failed them, all others. Now the shadow attributes would be feelings of abandonment that stifle maturing. It's seeking inappropriate surrogate families. You'll see that with cults. You will see that with tribal thinking, where people will become clans because they need that safety net. So if you know anybody in that who tends to want to be very much overly attached to others, seeking some kind of connection, that is something that their soul path is giving them some experiences. How is that going to work for you? What if it just stops working, and it will ultimately, if they will give up the insistence that it's got to be somebody else, some other group, some other family, when they can go with source and trust that they have the support they need, they will have grown along their spiritual growth there. There is the child divine. I have someone in mind in my life that definitely fits this bill. It is like they have the special blessings. It's like, how does that happen? It is like they are capable of just, I don't know, it just happens. Life just shows up for them in the most amazing ways. Now, the gift that they are to the world is that innocence, purity, and redemption that suggests a special connection with the divine. They really can pull the most amazing intuition, psychic, amazing insights and wisdom comes through them so easily. And they just feel like a divine child. Now, the shadow side of that would be an inability to defend oneself against negative forces. So a divine child who hasn't learned the strength of discernment and their own sovereign ability to stand firm, the ground that they actually do have hold of in connection with the divine, those gifts that the divine give them. Again, if they're looking for others, it's going to make it a little harder, but they can get there. It's no problem. The child eternal is the ones who are determined to remain young in body, mind, and spirit. They have the ability to see things with fresh eyes. I have someone else in mind on this one, and I've seen this in their reality of what it is that they are working with. Now, on their shadow side, it's going to be the inability to grow up and be responsible. extreme dependency on others for physical security. They really struggle to be able to, make it in the world. They need others to take over the responsibility of their adult choices. So they don't want to grow up. If that's holding them back, they really are missing out on all the goodness that being an adult who can actually also see things through the eyes of a child, have that hope and that enjoyment of life being just a miracle of good things through and through. The magical child might be similar. They are seeing the potential for sacred beauty in all things, the belief that everything is possible. So they have, there are no limits. It's all one. It's all possible. And they see wonderful, magical things. You'll hear them speak like magical is a big word for them. So it's like others might say miraculous, but they're really caught with the vision of being able to see the delightful, magical side of the spiritual life in this earthly experience. Shadow attributes would be pessimism, depression, disbelief in miracles, believing that energy and action are not required for growth. It should just happen. It should just be here for me because that's the way it should be. And so actually going after their goals and dreams in an effective connection of co-creation might be more challenging. But again, if everything is possible and you bring in your spiritual, angelic elements with your earthly elements and resources, then that becomes more balanced and harmonious for them as they see that. Don't you just love people who can just delight you? Say, you know what? Enjoy the silliness of life. Enjoy the delightful fun that life can be. And it all works out, right? It all works out. That's how the magical child could ultimately be counseling you. The nature child is very much grounded. They are friendships with animals and communication with nature spirits. So they are very much of the earth. They have a very solid foundation of how this whole thing works as well. They still might have some of the magical, but they see it more in the nature of how things just fly in and spring up, flow through and to. So it's really a communication with nature itself that these children or this type of person can really shine. Now, their shadow attributes would be a tendency to be a bit abusive to animals or people and the environment. They take it so for granted, and that can be really difficult to watch and to be a part of if you've got that kind of a tendency to bring yourself back out of it. All of these shadow aspects are loss of faith, thinking that what is natural just isn't for them. It isn't working for them somehow. They haven't tapped in through going to the higher side of their choices. And it could be that sometimes it was abused out of them. So you can see the points of each one of these. There's just wonderful, wonderful ways to go. I know who the wounded children are in my sphere of influence. I know who the orphans are, how they're feeling and what's driving them. And then the eternal children, the magical children, the natural children, those are nature children, the magical, the nature children, those who are coming from that perspective as adults now, and they haven't got the higher learning yet, encouraging them to work through all those shadow attributes to bring up and come around to what is in their highest and best design, is the best game in town. I mean, it's really a fun journey ultimately, even though it's very painful. But there's a lot of karma that plays into this. So shifting these shadow attributes into love and light is how we get to transform, shift, and put more focus and joy and love and balance into those as we work with our soul paths. And I just wish you all the best. I think it's super fun. I'd love for you to sit with your journals this week and this weekend or whenever you're approaching it, and think it through. Who are the children in my life? See yourselves in a schoolyard. You don't need all of them around you, but you know what those characters, those archetypes are all about. And it gives you more compassion for what they're going through for yourself. When you go, oh, well, of course the divine child is going to be like, sweetie, come on. It's not that, you just, or the same with the orphan child. There's so much that they are working through that all the other divine, eternal, magical, and nature children can really remind them, because we have more than one child within us. You probably are already going, well, I kind of have this one, but I also have a bit of this and this one. And so as you reparent yourself, how would you bring love and light to that child, where that child within you gets to see, oh, so I actually am pretty strong. I actually am quite gifted. I actually do have the support that I need to be able to shine brightly with joy in this world. All right. Thank you. If you don't have your 3-day journal template yet, it's all the information's down in the description, and then you can always go to the playlists. I would encourage you to do that. These messages are timeless for you to be able to come back to and see where you're at. Take the measuring stick again at some point. And I would, of course, really encourage you and thank you and love you for sharing this to those who you think could really benefit from such insights as you're probably okay. You're probably more okay than you think. There's probably more right with you than there is wrong with you. And if that can encourage you, then we're on the right track. So comment, ask your questions, share your journey in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.